And the sons of Yaakov led away all the spoil of Gaash and went out of the city by night. They were going out marching towards the castle of Beit Haron, and the inhabitants of Beit Haron were going to the castle to meet them. And on that night the sons of Yaakov fought with the inhabitants of Beit Haron in the city of Beit Haron. And all the inhabitants of Beit Haron were mighty men. One of them would not flee from before 1,000 men. And they fought on that night upon the castle, and their shouts were heard on that night from afar. And the earth quaked at their shouting, and all the sons of Yaakov were afraid of these men, as they were not accustomed to fight in the dark, and they were greatly confounded. And the sons of Yaakov cried unto Yahweh, saying, Give us help to us, O Yahweh, deliver us, that we may not die by the hands of these uncircumcised men. And Yahweh hearkened to the voice of the sons of Yaakov, and caused great terror and confusion to seize the people of Beit Haron. And they fought amongst themselves, the one with the other, and in the darkness of the night, and smote each other in great numbers. And the sons of Yaakov, knowing that Yahweh had brought a ruach, a perverseness among these men, and they that fought, each man with his neighbor, went forth from among the bands of people of Beit Haron, and went as far as the descent of the castle of Beit Haron, and further, and they tarried there securely with their young men on that night. And the people of Beit Haron fought the whole night, one man with his brother, and the other with his neighbor. And they cried out in every direction upon the castle, and their cry was heard at a distance, and the whole earth shook at their voice, for they were powerful above all the people of the earth. And all the inhabitants of the city of Kenyanim, and the Hittite, and the Amorim, and the Sheviim, and all the kings of Canaan, and also those who were on the other side of the Jordan, heard the noise of the shouting on that night. And they said, Surely these are the battles of the Ephraim, who are fighting against the 7 cities, who came nigh unto them, and who can stand against these Ephraim? And all the inhabitants of the cities of Kenyanim, and all those who were on the other side of the Jordan, were greatly afraid of the sons of Yaakov, for they said, Behold, the same will be done to us as was done to those cities, for who can stand against their mighty strength? And the cries of Koranim were very great on that night, and continued to increase, and they smote each other till morning, and numbers of them were killed. And the morning appeared, and all the sons of Yaakov rose up at daybreak, and went up to the castle, and they smote those who remained in the Koranim in a terrible manner, and they were all killed in the castle. And the 6th day appeared, and all inhabitants of Canaan saw at the distance all the people of Beit Haron lying dead in the castle of Beit Haron, and strewed about as the carcasses of lambs and goats. And the sons of Yaakov led all the spoil which they had captured from Gaash, and went to Beit Haron, and they found the city full of people like the sand of the sea, and they fought with them. And the sons of Yaakov smote them there till evening time. And the sons of Yaakov did unto Beit Haron as they had done to Gaash and Tapnach, and they all had done to Chazar, to Sarton, and to Elo. And the sons of Yaakov took with them the spoil of Beit Haron, and all the spoil of the cities, and on that day they went home to Shechem. And the sons of Yaakov came home to the city of Shechem, and they remained without the city, and they then rested there from the war, and tarried there all night. And all their servants together with all the spoil that they had taken from the cities, they left without the city. And they did not enter the city, for they said, perchance there may be yet more fighting against us, and they may come to besiege us in Shechem. And Yaakov and his sons and their servants remained on that night and the next day in the portion of the field which Yaakov had purchased from Tamar for 5 shekels, and all that they had captured was with them. And all the body which the sons of Yaakov had captured was in the portion of the field, immense as the sands upon the seashore, and the inhabitants of the land observed them from afar, and all the inhabitant of the land were afraid of the sons of Yaakov, who had done this thing, for no king from the days of old had ever done the like. And the 7 kings of Canaanim resolved to make peace with the sons of Yaakov, for they were greatly afraid of their lives on account of the sons of Yaakov. And on that day, being the 7th day, Yaphiah, king of Hebron, sent secretly to the king of Ai, and to the king of Givon, and to the king of Shalem, and to the king of Adullam, and to the king of Lachish, and to the king of Chazar, and to all the Canaanite kings who were under the subjection, saying, go up with me, and come to me, that we may go, the sons of Yaakov, and I will make peace with them, and form a treaty with them, lest all your lands be destroyed by the sword of the sons of Yaakov, as they did to Shechem and the cities around it, as you have heard and seen. And when you come to me, do not come with many men, but let every king bring his 3 head captains, and every captain bring 3 of his officers, and come all of you to Hebron, and we will go together to the sons of Yaakov and supplicate them that they shall form a treaty of peace with us. And all the kings did as the king of Hebron had sent to them, for they were all under his counsel and command. And all the kings of Canaan assembled to go to the sons of Yaakov to make peace with them. And the sons of Yaakov returned and went to the portion of the field that was in Shechem, for they did not put confidence in these kings of the land. And the sons of Yaakov returned and remained in the portion of the field 10 days, and no one came to make war with them. And when the sons of Yaakov saw that there was no appearance of war, they all assembled and went to the city of Shechem. And the sons of Yaakov remained in Shechem. And at the expiration of 40 days, all the kings of the Amorim assembled from all their places and came to Hebron to Yaphiah, king of Hebron. And the number of kings that came to Hebron to make peace with the sons of Yaakov was 21 kings, and the number of captains that came with them was 69, and their men were 189. And all these kings and their men rested on Mount Hebron. And the king of Hebron went out with his 3 captains and 9 men, and these kings resolved to go to the sons of Yaakov to make peace. And they said to the king of Hebron, go you before us with your men, and speak for us unto the sons of Yaakov, and we will come after you and confirm your words. And the king of Hebron did so. And the sons of Yaakov heard that all the kings of Canaan had gathered together and rested in Hebron. And all the sons of Yaakov sent 4 of their servants as spies, saying, go and spy these kings, and search and examine their men, whether they are few or many. And if they are but a few in number, number them all and come back. And the servants of Yaakov went secretly to these kings and did as the sons of Yaakov had commanded them. And on that day they came back to the sons of Yaakov and said unto them, we came unto these kings, and they are but a few in number. And we numbered them all, and behold, there were 289 king and men. And the sons of Yaakov said, they are but a few in number, therefore we will not all go out to them. And in the morning the sons of Yaakov rose up and chose 62 of their men, and 10 of the sons of Yaakov went with them, and they girded on their weapons of war, for they said, they are coming to make war with us, for they knew not that they were coming to make peace with them. And the sons of Yaakov went with their servant to the gate of Shechem towards these kings, and their father Yaakov was with them. And when they had come forth, behold, the king of Hebron and his 3 captains and 9 men with him were coming along the road against the sons of Yaakov. And the sons of Yaakov lifted up their eyes and saw at a distance Yaphiah, king of Hebron, with his captains coming towards them. And the sons of Yaakov took their stand at a place of the gate of Shechem and did not proceed. And the king of Hebron continued to advance, he and his captains, until he came nigh to the sons of Yaakov. And he and his captains bowed down to them to the ground. And the king of Hebron sat with his captains before Yaakov and his sons. And the sons of Yaakov said unto him, what has befallen you, O king of Hebron? Why have you come to us this day? What do you require from us? And the king of Hebron said to Yaakov, I beseech you, my lord, all the kings of Kenyanim have this day come to make peace with you. And the sons of Yaakov heard the words of the king of Hebron, and they would not consent to his proposal, for the sons of Yaakov had no belief in him, for they imagined that the king of Hebron had spoken deceitfully to them. And the king of Hebron knew from the words of the sons of Yaakov that they did not believe his words. And the king of Hebron approached nearer to Yaakov and said to him, I beseech you, my lord, to be assured that all these kings have come to you on peaceable terms, for they have not come with all their men, neither did they bring their weapons of war with them, for they have come to seek peace from my lord and his sons. And the sons of Yaakov answered the king of Hebron, saying, send you to all these kings, and if you speak truth unto us, let them each come singly before us. And if they come unto us unarmed, we shall then know that they seek peace from us. And Yaphiah, king of Hebron, sent one of his men to the kings, and they all came before the sons of Yaakov and bowed down to them to the ground. And these kings sat before Yaakov and his sons, and they spoke unto them, saying, we have heard all that you did unto the kings of Amorim with your sword and exceedingly mighty army, so that no man could stand up before you. And we were afraid of you for the sake of our lives, lest it should befall us as it did to them. So we have come unto you to form a treaty of peace between us. And now, therefore, contract us as a covenant of peace and truth, that you will not meddle with us, insomuch as we have not meddled with you. And the sons of Yaakov knew that they had really come to seek peace from them. And the sons of Yaakov listened to them and formed a covenant with them. And the sons of Yaakov swore unto them that they would not meddle with them. And all the kings of Kenyanim swore also to them. And the sons of Yaakov made them tributary from that day forward. And after this, all the captains of the kings came with their men before Yaakov with presents in their hands for Yaakov and his sons, and they bowed down to him to the ground. And these kings then urged the sons of Yaakov and begged them to return all the spoil they had captured from the 7 cities of Amorim. And the sons of Yaakov did so, and they returned all that they had captured, the women, the little ones, the cattle, and all the spoil which they had taken. And they sent them off, and they went away each to his city. And all these kings again bowed down to the sons of Yaakov, and they sent out sent or brought them many gifts in those days, and the sons of Yaakov sent off these kings and their men, and they went peaceably away from them to their cities. And the sons of Yaakov also returned to their home to Shechem. And there was peace from that day forward between the sons of Yaakov and the kings of Canaanim, until the children of Yasrael came to inherit the land of Canaan. And at the revolution of the year, the sons of Yaakov journeyed from Shechem, and they came to Hebron to their father Yitzchak, and they dwelt there. But their flocks and herds they fed daily in Shechem, for there was there in those days good and fat pasture. And Yaakov and his sons and all their household dwelt in the valley of Hebron. And it was in those days, in that year, being the 106th year of the life of Yaakov, in the 10th year of Yaakov, coming from Paddan Aram. And Leah, the woman of Yaakov, died. She was 51 years old when she died in Hebron. And Yaakov and his sons buried her in the cave of the field of Machpelah, which was in Hebron, which Abram had bought from the children of Heth for the possession of a burial place. And the sons of Yaakov dwelt with their father in the city of Hebron, and all the inhabitants of the land knew their strength, and their fame went throughout the land. And Joseph, the son of Yaakov, and his brother Benjamin, the son of Rachel, the woman of Yaakov, were yet young in those days, and did not go out with their brethren during the battles in all the cities of Amorim. And when Joseph saw the strength of his brethren and their greatness, he praised them and exalted them, but he ranked himself greater than them and extolled them above them. And Yaakov, his father, also loved him more than any of his sons, for he was a son of his old age. And through this love towards him, he made him a coat of many colors. And when Joseph saw that his father loved him more than his brethren, he continued to exalt him above his brethren, and he brought unto his father evil reports concerning them. And the sons of Yaakov, seeing the whole of Joseph's conduct towards them, and that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him all the days. And Joseph was 17 years old, and he was still magnifying himself above his brethren, and thought of raising himself above them. And at that time he dreamed a dream, and he came unto his brothers and told them his dream. And he said unto them, I dreamed a dream, and behold, we were all binding sheaves in the field. And my sheaf rose and placed upon the ground, and your sheaves surrounded it and bowed down to it. And his brethren answered him and said unto him, What means this dream that you did dream? Do you imagine in your heart to reign and rule over us? And he still came and told the thing to his father Yaakov. And Yaakov kissed Joseph when he heard these words from his mouth. And Yaakov blessed Joseph. And when the sons of Yaakov saw that their father had blessed Joseph and had kissed him, and that he loved him exceedingly, they became jealous of him and hated him the more. And after this, Joseph dreamed another dream and related the dream to his father in the presence of his brethren. And Joseph said unto his father and brethren, Behold, I again dreamed a dream, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars bowed down to me. And his father heard the words of Joseph and his dream, and seeing that his brethren hated Joseph on account of this matter, Yaakov therefore rebuked Joseph before his brethren on account of the thing, saying, What means this dream which you have dreamed, and magnifying yourself before your brethren who are older than you are? Do you imagine in your heart that I and your mother and your 11 brethren will come and bow down to you, that you speak these things? And his brethren were jealous of him on account of his words and dreams, and they continued to hate him. And Yaakov reserved the dreams in his heart. And the sons of Yaakov went one day to feed their father's flock in Shechem, for they were still herdsmen in those days. And while the sons of Yaakov were that day feeding in Shechem, they delayed, and the time of gathering in the cattle was past, and they had not arrived. And Yaakov saw that his sons were delayed in Shechem, and Yaakov said within himself, perchance the people of Shechem have risen up to fight against them, therefore they have delayed coming this day. And Yaakov called Joseph his son in the commanded them, saying, behold, your brethren are feeding in Shechem this day, and behold, they have not yet come back. Go now, therefore, and see where they are, and bring me word back concerning the welfare of your brethren and the welfare of the flock. And Yaakov sent his son Joseph to the valley of Hebron, and Joseph came for his brothers to Shechem, and could not find them. And Joseph went about the field which was near Shechem to see where his brothers had turned, and he missed his road on the wilderness, and knew not which way he should go. And an angel of Yahweh found him wandering in the road towards the field. And Joseph said unto the angel of Yahweh, I seek my brethren. Have you not heard where they are feeding? And the angel of Yahweh said to Joseph, I saw your brethren feeding here, and I heard them say they would go to feed in Dotham. And Joseph hearkened to the voice of the angel of Yahweh, and he went to his brethren in Dothan, and he found them in Dothan feeding the flock. And Joseph advanced to his brethren, and before he had come nigh unto them, they had resolved to slay him. And Shimon said to his brethren, behold, the man of dreams is coming unto us this day, and now therefore come and let us kill him, and cast him in one of these pits that are in the wilderness. And when his father shall seek him from us, we shall say, an evil beast has devoured him. And Reuben heard the words of his brethren concerning Joseph, and he said to them, you should not do this thing, for how can we look up to our father Yaakov? Cast him into this pit to die there, but stretch not forth a hand upon him to spill his blood. And Reuben said this in order to deliver him from the hands, to bring him back to his father. And when Joseph came to his brethren, he sat before them, and they rose up upon him and seized him and smote him to the earth and stripped the coat of many colors which he had on. And they took him and cast him into the pit, and in the pit there was no water, but serpents and scorpions. And Joseph was afraid of the serpents and scorpions that were in the pit. And Joseph cried out with a loud voice, O Yahweh, hide the serpents and the scorpions in the sides of the pit. And they did no harm unto Joseph. And Joseph called out from the pit to his brethren and said to them, what have I done to you? And in what have I sinned? Why do you not fear Yahweh concerning me? Am I not of your bones and flesh? And is not Yaakov your father, my father? Why do you do this thing unto me this day? And how will you be able to look up to our father, Yaakov? And he continued to cry out unto his brethren from the pit, and he said, O Yehuda, Shimon, Levi, my brethren, lift me up from the place of darkness in which you have placed me, and come this day to have compassion on me, ye children of Yahweh, and sons of Yaakov, my father. And if I have sinned unto you, are you not the sons of Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov? If they saw an orphan, they had compassion over him, or one that was hungry, they gave him bread to eat, or one that was thirsty, they gave him water to drink, or one that was naked, they covered him with garments. Oh, how then will you withhold your pity from your brother? For I am of your flesh and bones. And if I have sinned unto you, surely you will do this on account of my father. And Joseph spoke these words from the pit, and his brethren could not listen to him, nor decline their ears to the words of Joseph. And Joseph was crying and weeping in the pit. And Joseph said, Oh, that my father knew this day the act which my brothers have done unto me, and the words which they have this day spoken unto me. And all his brethren heard his cries and weeping in the pit. And his brethren went and removed themselves from the pit, so that they might not hear the cries of Joseph and his weeping in the pit. And they went and sat on the opposite side, about the distance of a bow shot. And they sat there to eat bread. And while they were eating, they held counsel together what was to be done with him, whether to slay him or to bring him back to his father. They were holding the counsel when they lifted up their eyes and saw, and behold, there was a company of Yishmaelim coming at a distance by the road of Gilad, going down to Mitzrayim. And Yehuda said unto them, What gain will it be for us to slay our brother? Perchance Elohim will require him from us, and then is the counsel proposed concerning him, which you shall do unto him? Behold, this company of Yishmaelim going down to Mitzrayim. Now therefore, come, let us dispose of him to them, and let not our hand be upon him. And they will lead him along with them, and he will be lost among the people of the land, and we will not put him to death with our own hands. And the proposal pleased his brethren, and they did according to the word of Yehuda. And while they were discoursing about this matter, and before the company of Yishmaelim had come up to them, 7 trading men of Midian passed by them, and as they passed, they were thirsty, and they lifted up their eyes and saw the pit in which Joseph was immersed. And they looked, and behold, every species of bird was upon him. And those Midian ran to the pit to drink water, for they thought that it contained water. And on coming before the pit, they heard the voice of Joseph crying and weeping in the pit. And they looked down into the pit, and they saw, and behold, there was a youth of comely appearance and well favored. And they called unto him and said, Who are you? And who brought you hither? And who placed you in this pit in the wilderness? And they all assisted to raise up Joseph, and they drew him out and brought him up from the pit, and took him and went away on their journey, and passed by his brethren. And these said unto them, Why do you do this, to take our servant from us and go away? Surely we placed this youth in the pit because he rebelled against us, and you come and bring him up and lead him away. Now then, give us back our servant. And the Midian answered and said unto the sons of Yaakov, Is this your servant, or does this man attend you? Perchance you are all his servants, for he is more comely and well favored than any of you. And why do you all speak falsely unto us? Now therefore we will not listen to your words, nor attend to you, for we found the youth in the pit in the wilderness, and we took him, and will therefore go on. And all the sons of Yaakov approached him, and arose up to them, and said unto them, Give us back our servant. And why will you all die by the edge of the sword? And the Midian cried out against them, and they drew their swords and approached to fight with the sons of Yaakov. And behold, Shimon rose up from his seat against them, and sprang upon the ground, and drew his sword, and approached the Midian. And he gave a terrible shout before them, so that his shouting was heard at a distance. And the earth shook at Shimon's shouting. And the Midian were terrified on account of Shimon and all the noise of his shouting, and they fell upon their faces and were excessively alarmed. And Shimon said unto them, Truly I am Shimon, the son of Yaakov, the Amorite, who have only with my brother destroyed the city of Shechem and the cities of Amorim. So shall Elohim moreover do unto me, that of all your brethren, the people of Midian, and also the king of Canaan were come with you, They could not fight against me. Now, therefore, give us back the youth whom you have taken, lest I give your flesh to the birds of the sky and to the beasts of the earth. And the Midian were more afraid of Shimon, and they approached the sons of Yaakov with terror and fright, and with pathetic words, saying, Surely you have said that the young man is your servant, and that he rebelled against you, and therefore you placed him in the pit. What then will you do with the servant who rebels against his master? Now therefore sell him unto us, and we will give you all that you require for him. And Yaakov was pleased to do, and Yahweh was pleased to do this in order that the sons of Yaakov should not slay their brother. And the Midian saw that Joseph was of a comely appearance and well favored. They desired him in their hearts, and were urgent to pursue him from his brethren. And the sons of Yaakov hearkened to the Midianim, and they sold their brother Joseph to them for 20 pieces of silver. And Reuben, their brother, was not with them. And the Midianim took Joseph and continued their journey to Gilad. They were going along the road, and the Midianim repented of what they had done, and having purchased the young man, and one said to the other, What is this thing that we have done in taking this youth from the Ephraim, who is of comely appearance and well favored? Perhaps this youth is stolen from the land of Ephraim, and why then have we done this thing? And if we should be sought for and found in our hands, we shall die through him. Now surely hardy and powerful men have sold him to us, and the strength of one of whom you saw this day, perhaps they stole him from this land with their might and with their powerful arm, and have therefore sold him to us for the small value which we gave unto him. And while they were thus discoursing together, they looked and beheld the company of Yishmaelim, which was coming at first, and which the sons of Yaakov saw was advancing towards Midianim. And the Midianim said to each other, Come, let us sell this youth to the company of Yishmaelim, who are coming towards us, and we will take for him the little that we gave for him, and we will be delivered from his evil. And they did so, and they reached the Yishmaelim, and the Midianim sold Joseph to the Yishmaelim for 20 pieces of silver, which they had given for his brethren. And the Midianim went on their road to Gilad and to Yishmaelim, took Joseph, and they let him ride upon one of the camels. And they were leading him to Mitzrayim. And Joseph heard that the Ishmaeli were proceeding to Mitzrayim. And Joseph lamented and wept at this thing, that he was to be so far removed from the land of Canaan, from his father. And he wept bitterly while he was riding upon the camel. And one of their men observed him, and made him go down from the camel and walk on foot. And notwithstanding this, Joseph continued to cry and weep. And he said, Oh, my father, my father. And one of the Yishmaelim rose up and smote Joseph upon the cheek, and still he continued to weep. And Joseph was fatigued on the road, and was unable to proceed on account of the bitterness of his soul. And they all smote him and afflicted him on the road. And they terrified him in order that he might cease from weeping. And Yahweh saw the ambition of Joseph and his trouble, and Yahweh brought down upon these men darkness and confusion, and the hand of everyone that smote him became withered. And they said to each other, What is this thing that Elohim has done to us on the road? And they knew not that this befell them on account of Joseph. And the men proceeded on the road, and they passed along the road of Ephrath, where Rachel was buried. And Joseph reached his mother's grave, and Joseph hastened and ran to his mother's grave, and fell upon the grave, and wept. And Joseph cried aloud upon his mother's grave, and he said, O my mother, O you who did give me birth, awake now, and rise to see your son, how he has been sold for a slave, and no one to pity him. O rise and see your son, weep with me on account of my troubles, and see the heart of my brethren. Arouse, my mother, arouse, awake from your sleep for me, and direct your battles against my brethren. Oh, how have they stripped me of my coat, and sold me already twice for a slave, and separated me from my father, and there is no one to pity me. Arouse and lay your cause against them before Elohim, and see whom Elohim will justify in the judgment, and whom he will condemn. Rise, O my mother, rise, awake from your sleep, and see my father, how his soul is with me this day, and comfort him and ease his heart. And Joseph continued to speak these words, and Joseph cried aloud and wept bitterly upon his mother's grave. And he ceased speaking from the bitterness of heart. He became still as a stone upon the grave. And Joseph heard a voice speaking to him from beneath the ground, which answered him with bitterness of heart, and with a voice of weeping and praying in these words: my son Joseph, I have heard the voice of your weeping and the voice of your lamentation. I have seen your tears. I know your troubles, my son, and it grieves me for your sake, and abundant grief is added to my grief. Now, therefore, my son Joseph, my son, hope to Yahweh and wait for him, and do not fear, for Yahweh is with you. He will deliver you from all trouble. Rise, my son, go down to Mitzrayim with your master, and do not fear, for Yahweh is with you, my son. And she continued to speak like unto these words unto Joseph, and she was still. And Joseph heard this, and he wondered greatly at this, and he continued to weep. And after this, one of the Yisraelim observed him crying and weeping upon the grave, and his anger was kindled against him, and he drove him from there, and he smote him and cursed him. And Joseph said unto the men, may I find grace in your sight to take me back to my father's house, and he will give you abundance of riches. And they answered him, saying, are you not a slave? And where is your father? And if you had a father, you would not already twice have been sold for a slave for so little value. And their anger was still roused against him, and they continued to smite him and to chase him. And Joseph wept bitterly. And Yahuwah saw Joseph's affliction, and Yahweh again smote these men and chastised them, and Yahweh caused darkness to envelop them on the earth, and the lightning flashed, and the thunder roared, and the earth shook at the voice of the thunder and of the mighty wind, and the men were terrified and knew not where they should go. And the beast and the camels stood still, and they led them, but they would not go. They smote them, and they crouched upon the ground, and the men said to each other, what is this that Elohim has done to us? What are our transgressions, and what are our sins, that this thing has thus befallen us? And one of them answered and said unto them, perhaps on account of the sin of afflicting the slave, has this thing happened this day to us? Now, therefore, implore him strongly to forgive us, and then we shall know on whose account this evil befalls us. And if Elohim shall have compassion over us, then we shall know that all this comes to us on account of the sin of afflicting the slave. And the men did so, and they supplicated Joseph and pressed him to forgive them. And they said, we have sinned to Yahweh and to you. Now, therefore, vouchsafe to request of your Elohim that he shall put away this death from among us, for we have sinned to him. And Joseph did according to their words, and Yahweh hearkened to Joseph, and Yahweh put away the plague which he had afflicted upon these men on account of Joseph. And the beast rose up from the ground, and they conducted them, and they went on, and the raging storm abated, and the earth became tranquilized, and the men proceeded on their journey to go down to Mitzrayim. And the men knew that this evil had befallen them on account of Joseph. And they said to each other, Behold, we know that it was on account of affliction that this evil befell us. Now, therefore, why should we bring this death upon our souls? Let us hold counsel what to do to this slave. And one answered and said, surely he told us to bring him back to his father. Now, therefore, come, let us take him back. We will go to the place that he will tell us and take from his family the price that we gave for him, and we will then go away. And one answered again and said, behold, this counsel is very good, but we cannot do so, for the way is very far from us, and we cannot go out of our road. And one more answered and said to him, this is the counsel to be adopted. We will not swerve from it. Behold, we are this day going to Mitzrayim, and when we shall have come to Mitzrayim, we will sell him there at a high price, and we will be delivered from his evil. And this thing pleased the men, and they did so, and they continued their journey to Mitzrayim with Joseph. When the sons of Yaakov had sold their brother Joseph to the Midianim, their hearts were smitten on account of him, and they repented of their act, and they sought for him to bring him back, but could not find him. And Reuben returned to the pit in which Joseph had been put in order to lift him out and restore him to his father. And Reuben stood by the pit, and he heard not a word. And he called out to Joseph, Joseph, and no one answered or uttered a word. And Reuben said, Joseph has died through fright, or some serpent has caused his death. And Reuben descended into the pit, and he searched for Joseph and could not find him in the pit. And he came out again. And Reuben tore his garments, and he said, the child is not there. And how shall I reconcile my father about him, if he be dead? And he went to his brethren and found them grieving on account of Joseph, and counseled together how to reconcile the father about him. And Reuben said unto his brethren, I came to the pit, and behold, Joseph was not there. What then shall we say unto our father? For my father will only seek the lad from me. And his brethren answered him, saying, thus and thus we did, and our hearts afterward smote us on account of this act. And we now sit to seek a pretext how we shall reconcile our father to it. And Reuben said unto them, what is this you have done to bring down the gray hairs of our father in sorrow to Sheol? The thing is not good that you have done. And Reuben sat with them, and they all rose up and swore to each other not to tell this thing to Yaakov. And they all said, the man who will tell this to our father or our household, or who will report this to any of the children of the land, we will all rise up against him and slay him with the sword. And the sons of Yaakov feared each other in this matter, from the youngest to the oldest, and no one spoke a word, and they concealed the things in their heart, and they afterward sat down to determine and invent something to say to their father, Yaakov, concerning all these things. And Issachar said unto them, here is advice for you, if it seems good in your eyes to do this thing. Take the coat which belongs to Joseph, and tear it, and kill a kid of the goats, and dip it in his blood, and send it to our father, and then he sees it, he will say, an evil beast has devoured him. Therefore tear ye his coat, and behold, his blood will be upon his coat. And by your doing this, we shall be free of our father's murmurings. And Issachar's advice pleased them, and they hearkened unto him, and they did according to the words of Issachar, which he had counseled them. And they hastened and took Joseph's coat and tore it, and they killed a kid of the goat and dipped the coat in the blood of the kid, and then trampled it in the dust. And they sent the coat to their father Yaakov by the hand of Naphtali. And they commanded him to say these words, We had gathered in the cattle and had come as far as the road to Shechem and further, when we found this coat upon the road in the wilderness, dipped in blood and in dust. Now therefore, know whether it be your son's coat or not. And Naphtali went, and he came unto his father, and he gave him the coat. And he spoke unto him all the words which his brethren had commanded him. And Yaakov saw Joseph's coat and knew it, and he fell upon his face on the ground and became as still as stone. And he afterward rose up and cried out with a loud and weeping voice, and he said, It is the coat of my son Joseph. And Yaakov hastened and sent one of his servants to the sons, who went to them and found them coming along the road with the flock. And the sons of Yaakov came to their father about evening, and behold, their garments were torn, and the dust was upon their heads. And they found their father crying out and weeping with a loud voice. And Yaakov said to his sons, Tell me truly, what evil have you this day suddenly brought upon me? And they answered their father, Yaakov, saying, We are coming along this day after the flock had been gathered in, and we came as far as the city of Shechem upon the road in the wilderness, and we found this coat filled with blood upon the ground, and we knew it, and we sent unto you if you could know it. And Yaakov heard the words of his sons, and he cried out with a loud voice, and he said, It is the coat of my son, an evil beast has devoured him. Joseph is rent in pieces, for I sent him this day to see whether it was well with you and well with the flocks, and to bring me word again from you. And he went as commanded him. And this has happened to him this day, while I thought my son was with you. And the sons of Yaakov answered and said, He did not come to us, neither have we seen him from the time of our going out from you until now. And when Yaakov heard their words, he again cried out loud, and he rose up and tore his garments, and he put sackcloth upon his loins. And he wept bitterly, and he mourned and lifted up his voice in weeping, and exclaimed and said these words, Joseph, my son, O my son Joseph, I sent you this day after the welfare of your brethren, and behold, you have been torn in pieces through my hand. Has this happened to my son? It grieves me for you, Joseph, my son. It grieves me for you. How sweet were you to me during life, and now how exceedingly bitter is your death to me. Oh, that I had died in your stead, Joseph, my son, for it grieves me sadly for you, my son. Oh, my son, my son. Joseph, my son, where are you, and where have you been drawn? Arouse, arouse from your place, and come and see my grief for you. O my son Joseph, come now and number the tears gushing from my eyes down my cheeks, and bring them up before Yahweh, that has his anger turned from me. O Joseph, my son, how did you fall by the hand of one whom no one had fallen from the beginning of the world unto this day? For you have been put to death by the smiting of an enemy inflicted with cruelty. But surely I know that this has happened to you on account of the multitude of my sins. Arouse now and see how bitter my trouble for you, my son. Although I did not rear you, nor fashion you, nor give you breath and soul, but it was Elohim who formed you and built your bones and covered them with flesh and breathed into your nostrils the breath of life. And then he gave you unto me. Now, truly, Elohim, who gave you unto me, has taken you from me, and such then has befallen you this day, and all the works of Elohim are good. And Yaakov continued to speak like unto these words concerning Joseph, and he wept bitterly. He fell into the ground and became still. And all the sons of Yaakov, seeing their father's trouble, they repented of what they had done, and they so wept bitterly. And Yehuda rose up and lifted his father's head from the ground and placed it upon his lap, and he wiped his father's tears from his cheeks. And Yehuda wept an exceeding grief, weeping, while his father's head was reclining upon his lap, still as stone. And the sons of Yaakov saw their father's trouble, and they lifted up their voices and continued to weep. And Yaakov was yet lying upon the ground, still as stone. And all his sons and his servants' children rose up and stood around him to comfort him. And he refused to be comforted. And the whole household of Yaakov rose up and mourned a great mourning on account of Joseph and their father's trouble. And the intelligence reached Yitzchak, the son of Abraham and the father of Yaakov. And he wept bitterly on account of Joseph, and he and all his household. And he went from the place where he dwelt in Hebron, and his men with him. And he comforted Yaakov his son, and he refused to be comforted. And after this, Yaakov rose up from the ground, and his tears were running down his cheeks. And he said unto his sons, Rise up and take your swords and your bows, and go forth into the field, and seek whether you can find my son's body, and bring it unto me, that I may bury it. Seek also, I pray you, among the beasts, and hunt them, and that which shall come to the first before you seize, and bring it unto me. Perhaps Yahweh will this day pity my affliction, and prepare before you that which did tear my son in pieces, and bring it unto me, and I will avenge the cause of my son. And his sons did as their father had commanded them. And they rose up early in the morning, and each took his sword and his bow in his hand, and they went forth into the field to hunt the beast. And Yaakov was still crying aloud and weeping, and walking to and fro in the house, and smiting his hands together, saying, Joseph, my son, Joseph, my son. And the sons of Yaakov went into the wilderness to seize the beast, and to behold, a wolf came towards them, and they seized him and brought him unto their father. And they said to him, This is the first we have found, and we have brought him unto you, did command us, and your son's body we could not find. And Yaakov took the beast from the hands of his son, and he cried out with a loud and weeping voice, holding the beast in his hand. And he spoke with a bitter heart unto the beast, Why did you devour my son Joseph? And how did you have no fear of the Elohim of the earth, or of my trouble for my son Joseph? And you did devour my son for naught, because he committed no violence, and did thereby render me culpable on this account. Therefore, Elohim will require him that is persecuted. And Yahweh opened the mouth of the beast in order to comfort Yaakov with his words. And he answered Yaakov and spoke these words unto him. As Elohim lives, who created us in the earth, and as your soul lives, my Lord, I did not see your son, neither did I tear him to pieces, but from a distant land I also came to seek my son, who went from me this day. And I know not whether he be living or dead. And I came this day unto the field to seek my son, and your sons found me, and seized me, and increased my grief, and have this day brought me before you, and I have now spoken all my words to you. And now therefore, O son of Adam, I am in your hands, and do unto me this day as it may seem good in your sight. But by the life of Elohim who created me, I did not see your son, nor did I tear him to pieces, neither has the flesh of men entered my mouth all the days of my life. And when Yaakov heard the words of the beast, he was greatly astonished, and sent forth the beast from his hand, and she went her way. And Yaakov was still crying aloud and weeping for Joseph day after day, and he mourned for his son many days. And the sons of Ishmael, who had bought Joseph from the Midian, who had bought him from his brethren, went to Mitzrayim, with Joseph, and they came upon the borders of Mitzrayim. And when they came near Mitzrayim, they met 4 men of the sons of Midian, the sons of Abraham, who had gone forth from the land of Mitzrayim on their journey. And the Yishmaelim said unto them, Do you desire to purchase this slave from us? And they said, Deliver him over to us. And they delivered Joseph over to them. And they beheld him, that he was a very comely youth, and they purchased him for 20 shekels. And Yishmaelim continued their journey into Mitzrayim, and the Midianim also returned that day to Mitzrayim. And the Midianim said to each other, Behold, we have heard that Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, seeks a good servant who shall stand before him to attend him and to make him overseer over his house and all belonging to him. Now, therefore, come, let us sell him to him for what we may desire, if he be able to give unto us that which we shall require for him. And these Midian went and came to the house of Potiphar and said to him, We have heard that you seek a good servant to attend you. Behold, we have a servant that will please you. If you can give us that which we may desire, and we will sell him unto you. And Potiphar said, Bring him before me, and I will see him. And if he please me, I will give unto you that which you require for him. And the Midian went and brought Joseph and placed him before Potiphar, and he saw him, and he pleased him exceedingly. And Potiphar said unto him, Tell me what you require for this youth. And they said, 400 pieces of silver we desire for him. And Potiphar said, I will give it you if you bring me the record of this sale to you, and will tell me his history, for perhaps he may be stolen. For this youth is neither a slave nor the son of a slave. But I observe in him the appearance of goodly and handsome person. And the Midian went and brought unto him the Yishmaelim who had sold him to them. And they told him, saying, He is a slave, and we sold him to them. And Potiphar heard the words of the Yishmaelim in his giving the silver unto the Midianim. And the Midianim took the silver and went on their journey. And the Yishmaelim also returned home. And Potiphar took Joseph and brought him to his house that he might serve him. And Joseph found favor in the sight of Potiphar, and he placed confidence in him and made him overseer over his house, and all that belonged to him he delivered over into his hands. And Yahuwah was with Joseph, and he became a prosperous man. And Yahuwah blessed the house of Potiphar for the sake of Joseph. And Potiphar left all that he had in the hand of Joseph. And Joseph was one that caused things to come in and go out, and everything was regulated by his wish in the house of Potiphar. And Joseph was 18 years old, a youth with beautiful eyes and of comely appearance, and like unto him was not in the whole land of Mitzrayim. At that time, while he was in his master's house, going in and out of the house and attending his master, Zelicah, his master's woman, lifted up her eyes toward Joseph, and she looked at him, and behold, was a youth comely and well favored, and she coveted his beauty in her heart, and her soul was vexed upon Joseph. And she enticed him day after day, and Zelicah persuaded Joseph daily. But Joseph did not lift up his eyes to behold his master's woman. And Zelicah said unto him, How goodly are your appearance and form! Truly, I have looked at all the slaves, and have not seen so beautiful a slave as you are. And Joseph said unto her, Surely, he who created me in my mother's womb created all mankind. And she said unto him, How beautiful are your eyes, with which you have dazzled all the inhabitants of Mitzrayim, men and women. And he said unto her, How beautiful they are while we are alive, But should you behold them in Sheol, surely you would move away from them. And she said unto him, how beautiful and pleasing are all your words. Take now, I pray you, the harp which is in the house, and play with your hands, and let us hear your words. And he said to her, how beautiful and pleasing are my words when I speak the praise of Elohim and his glory. And she said to him, how very beautiful is the hair of your head. Behold, the golden comb which is in the house. Take it, I pray you, and curl the hair of your head. And he said to her, how long will you speak these words? Cease to utter these words to me, and rise and attend your domestic affairs. And she said to him, there is no one in my house, and there is nothing to attend but to your words and to your wish. Notwithstanding all this, she could not bring Joseph unto her, neither did he place his eyes upon her, but directed his eyes below the ground. And Zelicah desired Joseph in her heart that he should lie with her. And at the time Joseph was sitting in the house doing his work, Zelicah came and sat before him, and she enticed him daily with her discourse to lie with her, or even to look at her, but Joseph would not hearken to her. And she said unto him, if you will not do according to my words, I will chastise you with punishment of death, and put an iron yoke upon you. And Joseph said unto her, surely Elohim, who created man, looses the fetters of prisoners, and it is he who will deliver me from your prison and from your judgment. And when she could not prevail over him to persuade him, and her soul being still vexed upon him, her desire threw her into grievous sickness. And all the women of Mitzrayim came to visit her, and they said to her, why are you in this declining state? You that lack nothing, surely your man is a great and esteemed prince in the sight of the king. Should you lack anything of what your heart desires? And Zelicah answered them, saying, this day it shall be made known to you whence this disorder springs in which you see me. And she commanded her maidservants to prepare food for all the women, and she made a banquet for them, and all the women ate in the house of Zelicah. And she gave them knives to peel the citrons to eat them, and she commanded that they should dress Joseph in costly garments, and that he should appear before them. And Joseph came before their eyes, and all the women looked on Joseph and could not take their eyes off of him. And they all cut their hands with the knives that they had in their hands. And all the citrons that were in their hands were filled with blood. And they knew not what they had done, but they continued to look at the beauty of Joseph, and did not turn their eyelids from him. And Zelicah saw what they had done, and she said to them, what is this work you have done? Behold, I gave you citrons to eat, and you have all cut your hands. And all the women saw their hands, and beheld, they were full of blood. And their blood flowed down from their garments. And they said unto her, this slave in your house has overcome us, and we could not turn our eyelids from him on account of his beauty. And she said unto them, surely this happened to you in the moment that you looked at him, and you could not contain yourselves from him. How then can I refrain when he is constantly in my house, and I see him day after day going in and out of the house? How then can I keep from declining or even from perishing on account of this? And they said unto her, the words are true. For who can see this beautiful form in the house and refrain from him? And is he not your slave, attendant in your house? And why do you not tell him that which is in your heart, and suffer your soul to perish through this manner? And she said unto them, I am daily endeavoring to pursue him, and he will not consent to my wishes. And I promised him everything that is good, and yet I could meet with no return from him. I am therefore in declining state, as you can see, And Zelicah became very ill on account of her desire towards Joseph. And she was desperately lovesick on account of him. And all the people of the house of Zelicah and her man knew nothing of this matter, that Zelicah was ill on account of her love to Joseph. And all the people of her house asked her, saying, Why are you ill and declining and lacking nothing? And she said unto them, I know not this thing which is daily increasing upon me. And all the women and her friends came daily to see her, and they spoke with her. And she said to them, This can only be through the love of Joseph. And they said to her, Entice him and seize him secretly. Perhaps he may hearken to you and put off this death from you. And Zelicah became worse from her love to Joseph, and she continued to decline till she had scarce strength to stand. And on a certain day, Joseph was doing his master's work in the house, and Zelicah came secretly and fell suddenly upon him. And Joseph rose up against her, and he was more powerful than she, and he brought her down to the ground, and Zelicah wept on account of the desire of her heart towards him. And she supplicated him with weeping, and her tears flowed down her cheeks. And she spoke unto him in a voice of supplication and bitterness of soul, saying, Have you ever heard, seen, or known of so beautiful a woman as I am, or better than myself, who speak daily unto you? Fall into a decline through love for you? Confer all this honor upon you, and still you will not hearken to my voice. And if it be through fear of your master, lest he punish you, as the king lives, no harm shall come to you from your master through this thing now. Therefore, pray listen to me. I consent for the sake of honor, which I have conferred upon you, and I put off this death from me. And why should I die for your sake? And she ceased to speak. And Joseph answered her, saying, Refrain from me, and leave this matter to my master. Behold, my master knows not what there is with me in the house. For all that belongs to him he has delivered into my hand. And how shall I do these things in my master's house? For he has also greatly honored me in his house, and he has also made me overseer over his house, and he has exalted me, and there is no greater in this house than I am, and my master has refrained nothing from me, excepting you who are his woman. How then can you speak these words unto me, and how can I do this great evil and sin to Elohim and to your man? Now therefore refrain from me, and speak no more such words as these, for I will not hearken unto your words. But Zelicah would not hearken to Joseph when he spoke these words unto her, but she daily enticed him to listen to her. And it was after this that the brook of Mitzrayim was filled above all its sides, and all the inhabitants of Mitzrayim went forth, and also the king and princes went forth with timbrels and dances, for it was a great rejoicing in Mitzrayim, and a holiday at the time of the inundation of the sea, Sayakor, that they went there to rejoice all the day. And when Mitzrayim went out to the river to rejoice, as was their custom, all the people of the house of Potiphar went with them. But Zelicah would not go with them, for she said, I am indisposed, and she remained alone in the house, and no other person was with her in the house. And she rose up and ascended to her temple in the house, and dressed herself in princely garments. And she placed upon her head precious stones of onyx, inlaid with silver and gold. And she beautified her face and skin with all sorts of women's purifying liquids. And she perfumed the temple and the house with cassia and frankincense. And she spread myrrh and aloes, and she afterwards sat in the entrance of the temple, in the passage of the house, through which Joseph passed to do his work. And behold, Joseph came from the field and entered the house to do his master's work. And she came to the place through which she had to pass, and he saw all the work of Zelicah, And he turned back, and Zelicah saw Joseph turning back from her, and she called out to him, saying, "What ails you, Joseph? Come to your work, and behold, I will make room for you until you shall have passed to your seat." And Joseph returned and came to the house and passed from thence to the place of his seat. And he sat down to do his master's work as usual. And behold, Zelicah came to him and stood before him in princely garments, and the scent from her clothes was spread to a distance. And she hastened and caught hold of Joseph and his garment. And she said to him, "As the king lives, if you will not perform my request, you shall die this day." And she hastened and stretched forth her hand and drew a sword from beneath her garment. And she placed it upon Joseph's neck. And she said, "Rise and perform my request. And if not, you die this day." And Joseph was afraid of her at her doing this thing. And he rose up to flee from her. And she seized the front of his garment. And in the tear of his flight, the garment which Zelicah seized was torn, and Joseph left the garment in the hand of Zelicah, and he fled and got out, for he was in fear. And when Zelicah saw that Joseph's garment was torn, and that he had left it in her hand, and had fled, she was afraid of her life, lest the report should spread concerning her. And she rose up and acted with cunning, and put off the garments in which she was dressed. And she put on her other garments. And she took Joseph's garment, and she laid it beside her. And she went and seated herself in the place where she had sat in her loneliness, before the people of her house had gone out to the river. And she called a young lad who was then in the house, and she ordered him to call the people of the house to her. And when she saw them, she said to them with a loud voice and lamentation, "See what an every your master has brought to me in the house, for he came this day to lie with me. For when you had gone out, he came to the house, and seeing that there was no person in the house, he came to me and caught hold of me with intent to lie with me. And I seized his garment and tore them and called out against him with a loud voice. And when I had lifted up my voice, he was afraid of his life and left the garment before me and fled. And the people of the house spoke nothing, but their wrath was very much kindled against Joseph. And they went to his master and told him the words of the woman. And Potiphar came home enraged, and his woman cried out to him, saying, "What is this thing that you have done unto me in bringing every servant into my house? For he came unto me this day to sport with me. Thus did he do unto me this day." And Potiphar heard the words of his woman, and he ordered Joseph to be punished with severe stripes, and they did so to him. And while they were smiting him, Joseph called out with a loud voice, and he lifted up his eyes unto heaven, and he said, "O Yahuwah Elohim, you know that I am innocent of all these things. And why shall I die this day through falsehood by the hand of this uncircumcised, wicked woman, whom you know?" And while Potiphar's men were beating Joseph, he continued to cry out and weep. And there was a child there, 11 months old, and Yahweh opened the mouth of the child, and he spoke these words before Potiphar's men who were smiting Joseph, saying, "What do you want of this man, and why do you do this evil unto him? My mother speaks falsely and utters lies." Thus was the transaction. And the child told them accurately all that had happened, and all the words of Zedekiah to Joseph day after day did he declare unto them. And all the men heard the words of the child, and they wondered greatly at the child's words. And the child ceased to speak and became still. And Potiphar was very much ashamed at the words of his son, and he commanded his men not to beat Joseph any more. And the men ceased beating Joseph. And Potiphar took Joseph and ordered him to be brought to justice before the priests, who were judges belonging to the king, in order to judge him concerning this affair. And Potiphar and Joseph came before the priests, who were the king's judges, and he said to them, decide, I pray you, what judgment is due to a servant, for thus has been done. And his priests said unto Joseph, why did you do this thing to your master? And Joseph answered them, saying, not so, my lords, thus was the manner. And Potiphar said to Joseph, surely I entrusted in your hands all that belonged to me, and I withheld nothing from you but my woman. And how could you do this evil? And Joseph answered, saying, not so, my lord, as Yahuwah lives, and as your soul lives, my lord, the words which you did hear from your woman is untrue. For thus was the affair this day. A year has elapsed to me since I have been in your house. Have you seen any iniquity in me, or anything which might cause you to demand my life? And the priest said to Potiphar, send, we pray you, and let them bring before us Joseph's torn garment, and let us see the tear in it. And if it shall be that the tear is in front of the garment, then his face must have been opposite to her, and she must have caught hold of him to come to her. And with deceit did your woman do all that she has spoken. And they brought Joseph's garment before the priests who were judges, and they saw, and behold, the tear was in front of Joseph, and all the judges, priests, knew that she had pressed him, and they said, the judgment of death is not due to this slave, for he has done nothing, but his garment is that he be placed in the prison. But his judgment is that he should be placed in the prison house on account of the report which through him has gone forth against your woman. And Potiphar heard their words, and he placed him in the prison house, and the place where the king's prisoners are confirmed. And Joseph was in the house of confinement 12 years. And notwithstanding this, his master's woman did not turn from him, and she did not cease from speaking to him day after day to hearken to her. And at the end of 3 months, Zelicah continued going to Joseph to the house of confinement day by day, and she enticed him to hearken to her. And Zelicah said to Joseph, how long will you remain in this house? But hearken now to my voice, and I will bring you out of this house. And Joseph answered to her, saying, it is better for me to remain in this house than to hearken to your words, to sin against Elohim. And she said unto him, if you will not perform my wish, I will pluck out your eyes, add fetters to your feet, and will deliver you into the hands of them whom you did not know before. And Joseph answered her and said, behold, the Elohim of the whole earth is able to deliver me from all that you can do to me. For he opens the eyes of the blind and loosens those that are bound, and preserves all strangers who are unacquainted with the land. And when Zelicah was unable to persuade Joseph to hearken to her, she left off going to entice him. And Joseph was still confined in the house of confinement. And Yaakov, the father of Joseph, and all the brethren who were in the land of Canaan still mourned and wept in those days on account of Joseph. For Yaakov refused to be comforted for his son Joseph. And Yaakov cried aloud and wept and mourned all those days.